Hey there everyone, my name is James Lee. Thank you for clicking on this video. You're watching my channel 5149 where I discuss political and business topics, specifically how these topics relate to humanity and the overall well-being of our society. Today, I want to talk about JFK's most famous quote from his 1961 inaugural speech, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." The reason why I'm bringing up a quote from 60 years ago is that I think the prevalence of this type of framing has brainwashed and gaslit generations of Americans into thinking that if things aren't going well in our country, it's somehow our fault and not the fault of our government. But underlying JFK's Ask Not speech is an assumption, a contract if you think of it that way, that both the government and the citizens are responsible for the welfare of the country. And in my opinion, the American public has generally held up their end of the bargain. A century prior to Kennedy's Ask Not speech, over 360,000 men died in the Union Army fighting to preserve the United States of America. To give a less extreme example of civic engagement, there's also a deeply rooted culture of volunteerism that's unique to America. An article from the Stanford Social Innovation Review states that social scientists have long noted that volunteerism plays a significantly larger role in American civic life than it does in other countries. In fact, Americans are 15% more likely to volunteer their time than the Dutch, 21% more likely than the Swiss, and 32% more likely than Germans. But on the flip side, the American government has completely abdicated its constitutional duty. In the preamble to the Constitution, it explicitly states that the Constitution was established to do things like ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Well, let me ask this. How tranquil is our society if tens of millions of people are out of work, hundreds of thousands are getting sick, and thousands are dying every single day? What defense are we providing if our essential workers aren't adequately protected when they're on the job, and on top of that, they're forced to work without sick leave or proper health care? Does our government really promote the general welfare or just the welfare of the richest and most powerful? The biggest corporations in America receive billions in aid, all the while 800 small businesses are closing every single day. What is liberty when so many of us are forced to choose between preserving our livelihoods and breaking the law? Our government and our leaders have become so perverse and so corrupted, they serve only their donors and accept zero responsibility for anything and do nothing except point fingers at each other when nothing gets better. Everyone acknowledges that more relief is necessary, but in practice, the Democrats blame Republicans for inaction, and then the Republicans turn around and blame the Democrats for gridlock. All the while, just last week on December 2nd, a $740 billion military funding bill passed easily in both houses of Congress with overwhelming bipartisan support. The House version passed 295 to 125, and the Senate version 86 to 14. So in reality, it's not that the Republicans and the Democrats can't work together. It's that they choose to pretend not to be able to work together if the issue at hand is something that is counter to the interests of their donors by engaging in some sort of performative theater on why it's always the other side's fault that nothing can be done.
I've got to tell you, this is absolutely unbelievable. Just a few years ago, the stock market's at 25,000. Corporate profits are the highest they've been in decades. The rich keep getting richer. And our friends on the other side said, what do we do now? Let's do a tax cut where 83% of it goes to the top 1% of the wealthiest people. Fast forward a few months. Global pandemic, 36 million people unemployed, 40% of families who have a worker that makes $40,000 a year and less lose their job last month. 4 million people didn't pay their rent, and the Republican Party says, we don't have any money to help you.
The worst thing is that our government, along with our media, have conditioned Americans, us, to blame each other and hate each other for all the bad things that happen. Instead of examining its own economic policies, governments will blame poor people for their own poverty. They'll scapegoat immigrants. They'll talk of radical liberals or crazy socialists or the uneducated MAGA fascists. They condition the public to fear all these isms to deflect from the fact that they are really the puppet masters. They leave us fending for ourselves while we're getting robbed by the richest and the most powerful in our country.
Donors, I'm Dave Morse, I own the place.
So what's going on?
What's going on? You know what's going on.
Tell me, you tell me.
Hey, we got a government that has taken the stimulus money, they gave it to special campaign donors, they gave it to special interests, they abandoned me, and they have put me in a position where I have to fight back. Hey, listen, there was enough money to give every family every family in this country $20,000 to go home for 2 months. They chose to give it to special interests and campaign donors, the Kennedy Space Center, and they abandoned us. So you could have given me money. I'd gladly walk away for 60 days and let this virus settle down. Stand up, America. Give us the money to shut this thing down and calm this virus, but don't take it out on a select few.
My point is, people are not the enemy. We don't all share the same cultural values or religious beliefs, but people in general, just like the restaurant owner Dave Morris we just saw, we just want to work hard, make some money, support our families, and maybe have a little fun in between. The enemy are supposed public servants who are hypocritical, who have abandoned their duties, who are after power, who are out to enrich themselves and line their own pocketbooks with checks from corporations and from special interests. So to tie our discussion back to JFK's Ask Not speech I referenced at the beginning of the video, the people, we've done our part. It's our public servants who have failed us. So it's time to ask not what you can do for your country, but what your country can do for you. Thank you so much for watching. I feel like this video hits at the very core of what my channel 5149 is all about. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and also share. I can't tell you how important that is to help a small independent voice like mine. As always, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week.